Welcome to Blestus, I'm Oscar the Saxon. Yesterday I went to the Mythalon Yard Festival. I was there with the Blades of Leipzig, one of my fencing groups. There were musicians playing, and between their acts we would make demonstrations of how to fence. Now when I say fencing, I'm talking about obviously using swords, but also spears and axes. Now this is a point that my father never liked. My father used to fence, and it was what I call Olympic style fencing, so using an épée, a foil or a sabre. Here too, the sabres are not what I would call sabres. Look at what Matt Easton has got on his wall, those are sabres. I'd like to clarify, my father never partook in the Olympic Games. I'm saying he used to fence with foil and épée, and that is what I call Olympic style fencing. And that's what he thought of as fencing. Whatever I'm doing is just playing around with swords, he used to say once or twice. He used other words too, I can't think of what. Now, my youngest daughter also objects to me referring to this as fencing. She is quite willing to include rapiers into fencing, but what we do is not fencing, no, it is sword fighting. In German especially, Schwertkampf, sounds more martial. The basic thing is she's a bit afraid that if I tell someone that I'm going fencing with my daughter, they might think that she's got a girly blade instead of what the Hema people call a long sword. Anyway, so there I was yesterday with one of my fencing groups. The musicians were playing, and between their acts we would do some demonstrations of fencing, which involved using spears and halberds as well occasionally. And I actually only went there with the intention of just sitting around and giving some advice, not really doing anything. Now, after one of the bouts, there's a crowd, and sitting there's this girl, 9 years old, and we've got these spears that are training spears. So they are normal wooden shafts, but they've got soft tips, no metal there. Now, don't get this wrong, if you get that jabbed in your face, you can severely be injured. I don't know, possibly even lose an eye, might be possible. So they are safe, but it is not that you can just whack someone willy-nilly and nothing's going to happen. You've got to be careful, you've got to have some rules. I take these two spears and I just go straight towards this girl. Next to her sits this grown-up, I assume it's her father, and I give him a quick sort of look and he gives me a nod, so I assume I have consent, I'm allowed to muck around with his daughter. That sounds wrong, but anyway. So I walk up to her and I hold these two spears out, and she's got a wooden shield and a wooden sword. She drops them straight away, jumps up, grinning from ear to ear, grabs one of the spears. So I explained to her, we're only going to be playing around. For safety reasons, we don't stab into each other's faces, right? Now, I was really surprised about how much strength she had. A 9-year-old girl, hard for me to judge if she was tall for her age. I asked her age and I didn't compare her with other children. And of course, yes, there were lots of moments where our spears bind and I realise I'm controlling her spear, I can shove a little bit and then I can stab her. I don't do that. But there are a few instances where I try it and I do it slowly, and I was hugely impressed by her reaction, how she shoved me out of the way and then counter-attacked. After a few minutes, I then thanked her for the experience and asked her not to wear out the old man too much. But it was a very, very gratifying experience to give joy to this child. Now, I have children, they're all grown up, and I'm still not a grandfather, so it's been quite some time since I've done any form of fencing with children. In one of my clubs, there are two boys that are not yet 18, I think 17 and 16. They're both nearly my height, and one of them is way heavier than me. They've been fencing for years, so technically, yes, I am fencing with children when I take one of them on, but it doesn't feel like fencing with a child. Occasionally I take on newbies, right? But here too, it's a grown-up guy who comes, he's got this interest and he's sought us out. Somehow it's different, you know? But having this little child, inviting the child to do something that was obviously something he's interested in, and then having her enjoy it like this, it was absolutely great. Anyway, so she feels that now she doesn't have to sit beside Daddy, she can come and sit with the real grown-ups and comes to sit beside us. And she doesn't pile too many questions on us. After a while, one of the lads, actually the leader of the group, let's put it like that, Mike, picks up, he's got a buckler like this, right? He picks that up. She's got this toy shield. It's a little bit smaller than this. It's just a flat piece of wood. He's got something nice painted on it. And she's got this wooden sword about that long. So she's armed. He takes his buckler and he takes a relatively short but metal training sword and does some very light sparring with her, but he does actually jab into the shield once or twice. I say, well, that's actually a toy. We don't want to break it. So I had my buckler with me. I don't know why. I had no intention of using it, but I had it with me. So I give her Mike's buckler, which is at least 4 times heavier than the toy she's got, because this is a proper metal dome here, you know. But she was nice and strong, not buff good, but strong enough to hold this, and I borrowed someone's wooden training dagger. So there we are. First rule, I explained, we don't stab to each other's faces. So she stabs me straight in the shoulder. I say, right, okay, no stabbing, we're only going to slash like that. And I explained, I'm not going for your head, but keep your shoulder covered. She got that straight away. So there we are. I'm sort of trying to hit her shoulder, and then all of a sudden I go for her leg. And she's got it straight away that she's got to move her shield up and down to defend herself, and then she starts doing the same with her sword. So this is basically all we're doing, you know. We're only defending on the left-hand side. We don't do any fancy things like that, right? I am on my knees so that we've got the same height, and that was much more exhausting than I would have anticipated. But again, after a few minutes, I thanked her for the experience, and please don't wear out the old man. That statement's getting old. And it was just absolutely great to see the joy on her face. It was also fun for me to do the exercise like this, but it was absolutely a great experience. A little later then, there's this large crowd that had just been watching, and the boys just finished. And I spotted this boy who I thought would be about 15, 16 years old. I grabbed 2 of the long swords. Now they have plastic blades, so they're training ones, they're not sharp. I just take these 2 blades and I walk straight up to him, and he's already standing there smiling like that. But then the grin on his face when I sort of hold them out and he chooses one, I explained to him, you know, no stabbing her, and it's all about leverage and not power. And it was just great the way he understood it, but also the enthusiasm that he had. Yes, it was sort of, he wanted to do this. There's no signal in his body language that he's going to come over and ask us. I just picked him out, and I think I chose very well, and had this bout with him for quite some time. I put on a fencing mask to make sure that I didn't get hurt, and I said, look, you can actually hit me because you're supposed to hit to my head. He was going for my sword the whole time. And once again, it was just a great experience for me. I think also I totally made his day, right? But for me, it was also very, very gratifying to see the pleasure in his face. It was also a bit exhausting at the end of the day. It was in the plain sun and all that. Anyway, so there's a 3rd child that I walk up to, and he just hid behind one of his parents straight away. You can't win them all. You can't win them all. But I had these 2 children that really enjoyed doing a little bit of exercising with me, and I enjoyed it. And what I enjoyed the most was the obvious joy on their faces. So here's my point. If you've got some sort of hobby, it doesn't have to be fencing, I don't know, fishing, whatever. If you've got some children that you can sort of show this to, give it a try, you know. It can be really, I'm going to say exciting, but then I just said fishy, you know. Morning, nice day for fishing, isn't it? I don't know if that's going to be exciting, but you get what I'm trying to say. If you've got something like that you're passionate about, and your children are all too big and you don't have any grandchildren yet, or they're too small, you can find someone else's child. Whoa, hang on, what I forgot. So after having this great experience with these children yesterday, I've got this mad idea that I want to start a kids fencing group, right? So I have these kids, I don't know, 10 to 15, whatever, or above, that learn fencing. I'll be there teaching them. It's going to be fun. And then I have these visions. I'm going to end up with this shield wall of 20 or 30 sort of 10-year-olds with their shields and their spears, and then I've got the second rank behind them of grown-ups. And I don't think that's a good idea. And I also think that founding a club like that is going to be more hassle than I really want to take on. There'll be legal things you have to think about, of insurance and all that nonsense. I don't want that. But right at this moment, I really feel I want to start up a kiddie fencing club. Yeah. Thanks for listening.
So strong,
see you next
manly
time.
and tall, very handsome and smart. He is my Hrothgar. I love Hrothgar with all of my heart. When he returns to me, we will never again be apart. Oh, never again be apart.